Hi, this is Knob. This is a continuation of the devil guy. For those of you who already watched the two videos I put about the devil, that the devil is a lie, he does not exist. And I went to, I showed how in the New Testament with the Jesus guy, they had him encountering the devil. Then I touch on Revelation about John the Revelator, talking about some dragon that got kicked down by a so-called angel called Michael, all fictitious. So for those of you who watch those two videos, you should have an idea of what I'm talking about when it comes to the devil. So this is part 3 now. The same topic, like I said in those videos. That devil topic is very, very extensive. It would take a lot of parts to actually go in the Bible and break down the so-called devil, how he doesn't exist. Now, some people would say, well, what about Satan? I mean, that's another name that's the name of the so-called devil. And, it is in the Bible. We see the word Satan in the Bible. So what are you talking about? What about the book of Job? He said, there's a guy named Satan. So let me see. Let me go to the book of Job. One thing I have to say, I already did a couple of videos about the Bible and who wrote it. The Bible is not one book. The Bible is a bunch of books that a group of people in one nation called the Nation of Israel wrote. And then a time came, some people took all these books and put them together as one. So it's just like if you have a nation now, any nation, let's say America, for example, a bunch of Americans are writing books. There'll be some contradictions, some people that feel differently from others. There'll be different ideologies, philosophies, different versions of histories, different people feeling differently from others. So that's the same thing when it comes to the Bible. It's a national book, a bunch of Israelites wrote, but not every time those Israelites saw eye to eye. And one thing with the Bible, you have a time where you had Israelites that were free and they had their ideology. There's epistemology. And then you have another part of the Bible where you would call it the post-exilic time, where the nation of Israel went into exile, and then they came back, and they had all type of different views on so-called God, different ways of seeing stuff, because they learn certain stuff in slavery. So a lot of those books that were written by Israelites after the exile, after they went into captivity and came back, a lot of those books had stuff in them that ancient Israelites before exile didn't even believe in. So a lot of them, if you analyze the Bible, you'll see it's split into different parts. Like, for example, the Tanakh, it's really 3 words put together. The Torah, that's the part where they talk about the laws. And you have the book of the prophets. And the book of the prophets split up in 2. You have the earlier prophets, and you have later prophets, different timing. And then you have another section called the writings. And a lot of those writings, they are post-exilic writings. They came after the exile. A lot of them are very, you gotta take them with a grain of salt, You gotta really analyze them because, for example, you have blacks once upon a time before slavery, and they had their ways of thinking, like my ancestors, and then they went into captivity, and then they had children later on until my generation, and we have people like myself that were born after the time of slavery. So there's a lot of things we believe in, even our religion became, we have different views from our ancestors before slavery days. One thing we were given was so-called Christianity during slavery times. Before that, we weren't really familiar with Christianity like this. We didn't care for Christianity, you know. But after slavery days, we became mental slaves, and then we started having different views on whatever the so-called masters gave us. So our mind changed. So we have a slave-minded mentality. A lot of us. So we got different stuff. So it's the same thing with the nation of Israel. After they went to slavery, they learned a lot of garbage from their oppressors, from their masters, from those nations. When they went to Persia, they learned some Persian garbage. When they went to Babylon, they learned some Babylonian garbage. When they went under the Greeks, they learned some Greek garbage. When they went under the Romans, they learned some Roman garbage. So the same ways, those that are let's say in the Americas or whatever world, whatever countries they're in, they learn, they adopt whatever garbage their masters, their slave masters, taught them. So now, let's go to Job. So Job is definitely the book of Job is not part of the Torah, because Job wasn't talking about no laws. It's not part of the prophetic books like Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel. The book of Job came way later, although there's no specific time for it, but it came way later, and it's in the Ketuvim in Hebrew, the writing parts. So because the word Tanakh is three Hebrew words put together, the Navim, well, the Torah, which is the law first, T-A, and A for the Navim, which means the prophets, and then the KH or K for writings, that's the Ketuvim. So Job, the book of Job was put in the writing section, not a prophetic book. It's not a book about law. It's just put in whatever writing Israelite did later on, especially after exile. That's why Job, the person who wrote the book of Job, talking about some guy named the Satan, Hashatan. So when they translated the word, they saw in the book of Job from Hebrew to English, they never really translated it. They transliterated it, because the Hebrew word the word that you see in the Hebrew is Hashatan, meaning the adversary, the enemy. Now, because Christianity, they wanted to create some fictitious guy, the devil guy, and they wanted to give him a name. So they took the Hebrew word, they removed the word ha, which is the, from in front of it, and they just leave Shatan, and in English it's just Satan, or Satan, and in French it's Satan. It's the same word. So now they take a word that means the adversary, they turn it to somebody's name, and then they give him they personify him as a person, an evil guy that's doing things you're supposed to be scared of. And then they wrote a book. They took a word that the Israelites back then were familiar with, a name that they were familiar with, Job, as a good guy that lived before, but Job never wrote no books. And then they wrote a book and they titled it Job. And they say, well, there was a man living in in the land of Uz, U-Z. In fact, let me go to Job. So it doesn't, I'm not, so I don't misquote it. So Job, the first chapter, verse 1. It says, there was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared the Most High and eschewed evil. So now, land of Uz or Uz, however you want to pronounce it. Where is that? That's not Israel. But if you really dig, trying to find out where land of Uz was, then they'll tell you it was in a land Aram. Actually, a son of one of the son of Nahor, which is Abraham's father. So that guy, that was Abraham's people. Understand that, but that's not the nation of Israel. Even though he was Abraham's brother, Aram or Uz, and then this guy was living in a land where that had to do with Abraham's brother, that doesn't make him or his book title after. Anyway, I don't see how the book of Job is canonical at all. How because all the books that the Israelites follow were Israelite books. Israelites wrote, and now you have a book that use a real name for a land, and then they use a real name for a guy, which is Job. Why am I saying that Job is a real name like that Israelites were familiar with? When you read Ezekiel, I believe the 14th chapter, verse 14, Ezekiel mentioned Job, but that line is not saying, it's not authenticating the book of Job. It's just Ezekiel was making a point. Ezekiel said even if Job or Noah or Daniel was living in the land and they had kids, if their kids weren't doing righteous things, their kids would die, but they wouldn't be able to save their kids. That's all Ezekiel said. Even the book of Daniel also, Ezekiel mentioned Daniel. But the book of Daniel is not a prophetic book. That's a book that's in the writing section, just like Job. Those books, you got to take them with a grain of salt, especially when you see, they talk about stuff that the ancient Israelites before slavery did not talk about. Like Daniel talking about the name of an angel named Michael. When the ancient Israelites, before slavery days, they didn't believe in no Michael. They didn't believe in knowing names of angels. The only one name they had was, some people would say Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. I always say all different forms of his name. So in case somebody say, look, me, I think it's Yahweh. So, okay, I'm not beefing with you. If you think it's Yahweh, I'm not beefing with you either. If you think it's Yahweh or Yahweh, I'm not beefing with you. So that's why I always say different way of saying it. So now, so the book of Job, so far, that's a book. Me personally, just seeing that it's talking about some fictitious thing. When you read, it's talking about some guy named the Satan, and then in heaven, he's talking to the Most High. So that alone, the person who wrote the book, where was he when he saw the so-called a guy in heaven, a demonic guy in heaven talking to the Most High? That's just somebody who just sat down and wrote stuff that came from his mind. He didn't have any receipts to show, well, I got this from, a real vision the Most High gave me, and I was seeing that. We don't even know who wrote the book of Job. So the book of Job, personally, that's a book, just like along with the book of Daniel's, because they came after slavery days, exile days, they belong more like in the fire. Now let's analyze so when you read the first verse, second verse, talking about Job's life, he was a rich guy. And then it says now when you go all the way down to verse 6 now Now there was a day when the sons of the Most High came to present themselves before the Most High, and Satan came also among them. Satan, well, in the Hebrews, it'll be the adversary, or if you wanted to keep the word Satan from the Shaitan from Hebrew, then you would have to say, and the Satan, not that his name was Satan, it says the adversary. His name was, if you say, you couldn't say, well, and the Michael Jackson show up. You wouldn't even put the word "the" in front of a person's name. It would have been, in the Hebrew, it would have been without the "ha," it would have been, and Satan, Shaitan showed up. So now these people, they use that to create that Satan character. And now when you even go into the history of Israelites again, post-exilic times, they started talking about, they even had another name for Satan. They call them Samael. Samael, that's another name that the Israelites also, they learned from garbage from wherever they came from whatever captivity, Persian, Babylonian. Then they took the word, whatever these people was talking about, some Satan, some demon called Samael. Then in their writings, in later writings, they talking about either they use the word Satan or Samael, which is still garbage. That's why this topic is the devil does not exist, because the teaching is where it came from. It came from Israelites after exile times, and they learned a bunch of garbage from whatever captivity they were in, and then they brought it to the nation of Israel. So if you analyze the book of Job, that's where you see the word Satan. And then there are a couple other places where you see the word Satan again. Well, actually, there's one specific one in First Chronicle, the book of First Chronicles, chapter 21. It's talking about when David did a census, when he sent his general guy to go and count how many Israelites there were in his time. And his general was like, you sure it's a good idea? You sure you're not going to get into trouble if you do this by the Most High? Because, that's not your job. Don't worry about how many Israelites there are living in the land. Don't worry about that. You sure you're not going to get in trouble? And David was like, no, don't worry about it. Go do it. I'm the king. I told you to go do it. Then the guy went and did it. And came back to King David and said, well, we have this amount of soldiers, this amount of people, this amount of this. And before you know it, King David got in trouble. That was in the book of First Chronicles. For those of you who want to go read, that's in First Chronicle. Let me see. First Chronicle, chapter 21. So basically, that's what that story going into. And you see the word Satan. It says, Satan was the one who went to King David. However, he went to King David. But that's in the book of Chronicles, which is part of the writings, again, just like the book of Daniel, just like the book of Job. Those books you got to take with a grain of salt, especially when they making statements like this. Some Satan guy went to King David. Now, you have a book now from the earlier prophets now. That talk about the same story. That's in 2 Samuel chapter 24, verse 1. So if you got 2 Samuel 24, verse 1, talking about the story when David got in trouble for doing the census. But 2 Samuel didn't use the word Satan. 2 Samuel said it was the Most High who got mad at the nation of Israel and then incited King David to do this thing so the nation of Israel will get punished, because a lot of people got killed by the Most High. So one book before the exile, earlier prophets, 2 Samuel 24, would say, look, we'll talk about that story and say, look, it was the Most High who did it. And then now books that were written later on, First Chronicles, now remove the Most High part in there. Say, well, it was Satan. First Chronicles could have put the word Samael if it wanted to, but it's still the same thing. So it says, so for those of you who are familiar with the story, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like where in two books, in one book called the so-called Bible, one book that was written way before the nation of Israel had a mental slave mentality. They said, no, it was the Most High. We understood how the Most High did it. It was the Most High who did it, because the Most High was mad at the nation of Israel. Now, later on, other people with post-exilic times with mental slave mentalities. Now they took the same story and rewrote it. They contradicted the first story. So in the book of Samuel, let me get the book of Samuel. 2 Samuel 24, it says, verse 1, and again the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel. And he moved David against them to say, go number Israel and Judah. For the king, verse 2, for the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, go now through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number ye the people, that I may know the number of the people. So that's what it says. It was the Most High. It's clearly said the anger of the Most High was kindled against Israel, and he meaning the Most High. Now, like I said in 1 Chronicles 21, it says use the word Satan instead. And say it didn't even say it was the Most High, it was Satan. So one is the Most High who did it, the other one it was Satan. Now some people will say, well, you said before the exile, the Israelites didn't think like this. Any scriptures you can use like that shows that that the Most High would be, as a so-called God, would be doing things like this. There's another story now in First Kings, where it says the Most High, 1 Kings 22, starting with verse 19. Well, with this story, what happened, the nation of Israel already been split as two kingdoms. You had the kingdom of the north, which is the kingdom of Israel, and then you had the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. Kingdom of Israel had its own king, and that king was cool with a heathen king, with a king in Aram. So it says when you read that story in 1 Kings 22, starting from 1 all the way down to 19, it says the nation, the Israelite king was cool with the king of Aram, and they've been cool for the past 3 years. But somehow they still had there was still a little static. There was a land that the king of Aram took from the nation from Israel. Now you had another king from the southern kingdom called Jehoshaphat. He went to the king of Israel and said, look, it's not cool that Aram got this land. This land belongs to us. We are Israelite. We gotta do something about it. And king of Israel said, well, listen, what do you want to do about this? Whatever you want to do, I'm down. Let's do it. And then they agree to go attack that land to take it back. But before they went, they said, well, we got to talk to the prophets before we go attack, because we don't want to go start war with this guy who's powerful and then he kick our butts. So we need to know for sure if that's a good idea. So they called 400 prophets. Say, look, what do you think? What do you guys think? Should we go fight this other guy? And all the 400 prophets said, yeah, go. That's a good idea. You're gonna win. That's like taking candies from a child. You'll definitely get your land back from this guy. So, and then before they went, they said, look, although we got 400 400 prophets tell us that's a good idea. Go get it. They said, and then Jehoshaphat asked King of Israel, do you know, is there one more guy we can ask? And King of Israel said, yeah, I do know of another prophet. His name is Micah. Well, as I read on the story, you'll see his name. I said, well, this guy always talk BS about me. But, every time I ask him to tell me what's going to happen in the future, he always tell me something that I'm going to get slapped. Something bad going to happen to me. So I don't know if I should trust this guy. But anyway, let's find out from this guy. Hopefully, I know this guy going to say some dumb stuff. But let's ask anyway. So when they went and called this guy, that other prophet, so that makes it 401 prophet now. They already asked 400 prophets. Now let's ask one more guy. And they called the guy said, piece of cake, you're going to win the war. Without even thinking, yeah, piece of cake. And then they say, you sure? And then I say, oh, well, you really want the truth? Well, let me start by saying, I saw the nation Israel. They're like a bunch of sheep scattered with no leader, nobody to lead them. So it's bad news, So, and then the other guy said, the king said, you sure that's what I'm talking about? This guy always got some dumb stuff to tell me. Like it's not, And then now that's verse from. I'm giving a little summary from verse 1 to verse 18. So I don't have to read this whole thing because it will take a long time if I had to read from 1 to 18. So now when you jump down to verse 19, so verse 18, and the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? See, I already warned you, this guy was going to say some dumb stuff about me. He never have some good prophecies for me. That's a bad psychic. This guy always say some crazy stuff that make me scared. So, and then verse 19, this guy goes on, that prophet goes on and said some more stuff. And he said in verse 19, 1 Kings 22:19. And he said, hear thou therefore the word of the Most High. I saw the Most High sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left. So this is what he said. Look, let me tell you some more thing. Based on what I see also. I see the Most High sitting down on his throne. Then on the right, he got angels here, messengers here. And on the left, he got, other messengers here. So everybody's there. In verse 19. Verse 20. And the Lord said, who shall persuade Ahab? Ahab is the king of Israel. Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? That's the land that they wanted to take back from the king of Aram. And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. So now, when the Most High asked that question, that's what that prophet is saying, based on, that the Most High revealed to him. So he didn't just wake up and started saying things like the book of Job. He said, no, the Most High revealed, this is what I see, what's coming for you guys. So based on my vision, I saw the Most High just sitting in his throne. He asked, I want to deal with this king Ahab, this wicked king. But I want somebody, one of you guys, one of you angels, one of you angels, spirits, one of you to help with this. I want to send somebody to do this mission and go to this guy and deceive him so I can deal with him because he's a wicked man. So now it says, well, a bunch of angels say, oh yeah, on this side, say, yeah, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that. The other one say, look, we can do this, we can do that. So that's what this verse talking about. So, and there in verse 21, and there came forth a spirit and stood before the Most High and said, I will persuade him. So one definitely out of all the angels that was talking to the Most High, one angel They use the word spirit because he's not a human being. He's another type of being living somewhere else with more power than us, genetically more power, can do stuff. Whatever technology he has, he said, look, I can use my technology, my power, whatever it is. I'm gonna lie to this guy. Verse 22. And verse 22, and the Most High said unto him, wherewith? And he said, Most High said, how are you going to do this thing? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. So now, the Most High said, okay, wise guys, you angel, not guys with wings, human beings, other beings living somewhere else. Because we definitely can't be the only people living in this whole so-called universe. So these other beings with more power than us, they have technology, they can do stuff. Just like in the book of Genesis, when these gay dudes was trying to rape 2 angels, and then they used their power and blinded the Batsy boys, those cupcake dudes, who wanted to just do something to them, something sexually to them. They said, nah, we don't go like this. We deal with women. We are men. We're not Americans. We're not Batsy boys. We're not Americans. We're from somewhere else. We're not down with this type of religion, dudes touching dudes. We're not down with that. So they blinded those dudes, and even after they blinded those Batsy boys, they were still trying to find the door. Not able to see it, still trying to find the door. Maybe still trying to grab the dude and do something. That shows you, wow, this is weird. So that gay thing is not new. Everybody already know that. Dudes just don't want to deal with women. They want to deal with dudes because that's what they like. It's been there. So even when the angels blinded them, these American dudes that was living back then, in the time of Abraham, Lot, before the Most High destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So you had Americans living back then. I mean, when I say America, because in America everything goes. It's like everything goes. You whatever you want to do, it's legal. Whatever you want to do. I'm still waiting to see when dudes gonna start doing surgery. They start putting penis on their faces or something, or vaginas, penis, and everything. Because it's getting weirder and weirder in every seconds. So to get back to the story in First King. So the point I pull out Genesis to show you, you have other beings like so-called angels. They are called angels. That's not their name. That's just a title because they are messengers. They are working. They are workers working for the Most High. I was a king. They're just messengers, and they can be regular human beings. They can be whatever it is. Whatever. I'm not in heaven. I don't know what's going on up there. But based on other geniuses back then who wrote something, then I can have a little idea. For some people it's like, no, that's folklore. That's whatever. If that's what you believe, that's you. But now, when the Most High asks all the angels, say, who can help with this thing? Because me, I'm the king. I'm not gonna go there to do this. So one of you geniuses gotta go help with this mission. And then one guy said, look, I'm gonna do it. And the Most High said, how are you gonna do that? And he said, well, I'm gonna be a lion spirit in the mouth of all the prophets, to lie to him and say, look, go and fight. So basically, that prophet was telling Ahab, king of Israel, it was basically telling, yo, congratulations, you just played yourself. Because you just listened to those 400 guys, prophets that told you go fight. Listen, an angel, somehow, some technology was already used on these guys. So mentally, they already believe, they already deceive already. Whether the angel went while he was sleeping and gave him a dream. However the angel did it, I don't know. But that guy, that angelic guy, that messenger, he had some power. Say, look, all these 400 guys, all his prophets, I'm gonna be a lion spirit in their mouth. It's just like you have another story in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament, where you had a bunch of people that went to sleep, And the Most High gave every single last one of them the same dreams. So how the Most High does his thing, how these people up there, wherever they from, because there's a lot of people who are atheists, they don't believe in so-called God. Me, I've never seen so-called God. The only thing I do see though, when I look up in the sky, I see the sun, the moon, I see crazy stuff up there. I'm like, somebody had to put them. These things weren't put by themselves. The way they were put so nice, the way you see all the stars, the way they line up, and the sun does its thing every 24 hours and keeps doing it for how many thousands of years. And you got the moon. Somebody had to put that Big Bang Theory, all of a sudden a big explosion and all these. No, that story is for people that's on crack. There's no way. That's my conviction. Somebody had to put these things up there. And to live, you got all these things down here, plants that feed us, food, they all taste different. Somebody's responsible for this, or somebody's a bunch of people, I don't know. So that's why I cannot be no so-called atheist. Somebody put them way before I was born, way before all of us were born, thousands of years, millions of years. So let me get back to okay, let me try to make this quick because I don't want to be too long. So this guy said, that's what I'm gonna do, and then the prophet said, look, the 400 guys you just listened to, they lied to you. So if you go to fight, you're gonna die. Something's gonna happen to you. Well, the king said, well, don't worry about it. You always talk BS about me. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna arrest you, put you in jail. I'm gonna lock you up. I'm gonna do something to you. And you're not allowed to get free, to be free until I come back from the war. And then the prophet said, you sure about that? You sure you're gonna come back? Because I don't think you're gonna come back. And then, to make a long story short, they went to, both kings went to war against Aram. And unfortunately, Aram got killed. So the point I was trying to make with this story, the Most High doesn't need a devilish guy called Satan, called Samael, called the devil, whatever, to do if he wants things to be done. He got messengers, angels, spirits for that. He doesn't need no big devil guy in a red suit to go do his thing. He can use his messengers that he already has, his angels, and we don't know their names either. That's why it says a spirit. The guy said, look, out of all those people the Most High asked, one of them, which is a spirit or angel, just came and said something. He didn't give us no name. So now that's a teaching pre-exilic times, before exile. That's from a book, the earlier prophet Samuel. Now, when you go to books post-exilic times, book of Chronicles now, then these Israelites who came from slavery days, and they already learned all type of garbage, and they wrote a bunch of other books. When you also analyze the book of Chronicles, you got the book of Kings, First Kings, that was written before slavery days, by Israelites before slavery days, and you have Chronicles. Chronicles look like it's just a copycat version of First Kings, Second Kings. You got First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, but you're gonna read in the Tanakh, the nation of Israel, they were in Egypt. And they were slaves, and the Most High did this, brought them out of Egypt. They went to the wilderness, and then they came to the land. And then you're gonna read the book of Chronicles, and you're gonna see a story like, oh, the Ephraimites or other Israelites, they've been living in the land. They never were in Egypt. So now when you compare, it's like, oh, this is a straight up contradiction. Now people who hate the Bible want to talk BS. Just for example, where's this guy? I got his book. I guess I gotta do a video with this guy. This guy be what's his name? It's called a misconception and misinformations by the Black Hebrew Israelites, written by Garfield Reed. This guy's always he's always on Sonetta. There's a show called Sonetta TV on YouTube. Always there talking BS about the Bible. He wrote this book. This book I'm gonna do a video and dismantle this book from page 1 to the last page. So it'll be like, well, there was no such thing as the Exodus. There was no such thing as the Exodus. The Exodus never happened. You know, look at the Book of Chronicles. Says, look, you have Israelites already living in the land. They never, they don't know about, they don't know anything about slavery in Egypt, because it says the Ephraimites, they went in and attacked some people, and then they got killed, and they were already in the land of Israel. You know, and then Ephraim, especially Ephraim, Chronicles saying you had to use Ephraim because Ephraim was supposed to be born in Egypt, because Ephraim was Joseph's son, one of Joseph's sons. You have Ephraim and Manasseh. So they're like, how the hell the guy that was supposed to be born in Egypt, but he was never in Egypt, the tribe that supposedly came from that Ephraim guy was always in the land of Canaan living, and they were, you know, so people like naysayers like that guy who wrote that book, they're gonna find they want to find things like this where you have things that's not there are clear contradictions in the Bible. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, you know, one story says the Exodus, and the other story said there was no Exodus. Somebody's lying. But when I compare those books written before exile, and then you got the Book of Chronicles written after exile, when I see some type of contradictions, I gotta blame it on the fact that those Israelites who wrote those books, they came from being slaves from another nation, and then they came home with a bunch of madness in their heads, and they wrote those books, and then some genius later on came and took all those books that one nation wrote, and they put them all together and say, oh, we call it the Bible. Now in our time, a bunch of collection of books, and everybody thinking, oh, these books, all these books, they go hand in hand. There's no contradiction. Everything, this is the word of God. You know, the word of the Most High wrote. You know, the Most High never wrote none of these things. If anything, the Most High gave he was talking to Moses as far as the law is concerned. As far as the laws, listen, that I believe 100%. The laws that say how I'm supposed to live, that I believe 100%. You know, but other books where dudes with their own wisdom and they wrote, and once I see something that looks funny, like the Book of Job, I'm like, look, that book is not for me. That's garbage. That's some spooky stuff. I see something, Daniel, spooky stuff. 3 dudes in a fire, and another dude come in the listen, and the lion's there, lion's not doing anything to them. That book can go straight up in the fire. And Book of Job with that Satan guy, that book can go also in the fire. So so that was First King 22, where the Satan, well, First King 22, I was using this as an example. The Most High doesn't need that Satan guy. He got angels to do his thing. He doesn't need a guy named Satan. So the Book of Job is all fictitious. And then what else? I wanna. Well, it's already the time that I'm supposed to stop, but I think I already covered Job. Then talk about First Chronicles using the word Satan, and then 2 Samuel 24, 2 Samuel chapter 24, not using the word Satan, said it was the Most High who did it. Then I went to First King to prove how the Most High he can have spirits working for him that said, look, this guy he needs to be in trouble. He's in trouble because he's doing evil things. So I'm gonna send one of my messengers to help me slap him for all the wickedness he's been doing, like the king of Israel. So it's the same thing with King David and Second Samuel 24. It says Moses was mad at the nation of Israel, and then he wanted to punish them. And then that's one thing he did. He caused David, incited David to do some dumb stuff that he wasn't supposed to do. And then the Most High then sent an angel to punish killing a bunch of Israelites. I think like 70,000 Israelites got killed because the Most High was mad at the nation of Israel, you know, following fictitious stuff, following heathen garbage, heathen stuff, and they had to be punished. So that's the thing for people who ask, well, you already had 2 videos. You said the devil doesn't exist, but we read in the Bible, we see there's a book called the Book of Job, we see the word Satan there, and we read in the Book of Chronicles, we see Satan again. So what, Nob, my name Nob, what you guys say about that? So this is my explanation why you see the word Satan. So in the Bible, in the so-called Bible, which is a collection of a bunch of books. In the Tanakh, I already broke down Tanakh, and you have books, post-exilic books, written later by post-exilic Israelites, talking things that they got from learning from the heathen that already believe that there's a guy, there's a devilish guy in the sky somewhere, or in some or underneath the ground in red suit with a pitchfork. The heathen, all the heathen, they always had their God, a so-called God, and then you had a guy that was against God. There was always a Satan guy. All of the book of Job didn't go as far as showing that Satan guy was against so-called God, because God told him, God gave him rules like, yo, you want to do this, but don't do that though. Just do this. Just do this. If you do more, it's not gonna be good for you. So in the book of Job, I guess in those days, they weren't really Christianized, where now the Satan guy, he's no more friendly with so-called God anymore. Now he's on a different mission now. And when it comes to Christians, this devil guy, like, he's really mad. He's really mad at that so-called God. He's ready to fight. He's ready. It's like gangsters say, look, he's ready for the Most High to send him the Addy. Then he gonna pull up, and until Michael just came in and rough him up and kick him down. He never went back. So that Christian thing, that's Bugs Bunny stuff, and that type of teaching came from Israelites after slavery days, after exile. And they learned this garbage from Egyptology, from Egyptians, from the Sumerians, from the Babylonians, from the Persians, from the Greeks, because all those people, all those heathen, they all got they have Osiris, and then he got an enemy. He has an arch nemesis. Set that's coming to kill him every day. Every day. He starts in the day, just like the sun. The sun started in the day, and then it has to set. That means the guy set kill him, and then he got to be born again in the morning. So the heathen religions, it's all astronomical garbage. They're all trying to tell you, look, we believe in the sun. He wakes up in the morning. It comes out 6 a.m. early in the morning, give us a lot of sunlight, and then the devil gonna come. You're gonna set him up, or well, not even set him up, just make him set. That's where the sunset thing came from. So they're trying to teach people, like I said before in other videos, the heathen religions, they're not real stuff. It's just whatever happened in the sky. They had people worship the sky, and a lot of people think Jesus was based on a real guy. No, it's all astrological thing that the heathen trying to have us worship, trying to say with the sun, well, you need to worship the sun, and then they invented this guy Set that came in and killed this guy every day in evening time. That's all astrological garbage that the heathen somehow they obsessed with worshiping, like the Bible calls it, the hosts of heavens, the stars, the moons. They have names for this. First of all, they started that planet things, something that can move by itself. If Earth was in the sky, could hold itself in the sky, I'll be worshiping the Earth too. If there was a such thing. If the sun, all these things can hold themselves in the sky, that is a miracle. First of all, if any planet, so-called, well, if there was any such thing as a planet, which is a moving stars, and when these things move, wondering, you gotta be alive to move. So if something was actually moving in the sky, I can see why people back then, the heathen, say, oh, we gotta worship that thing. That thing is moving by itself. Who's making it move? He's moving by himself. He's gotta be a god. He's gotta be a god. That's why the heathen worship these things. And then the rain comes whenever the rain wanna come. Thunders come. Like, oh well, these things have gotta be gods. That's why the heathen back then, they worship these things. But that's what I had to say about the Satan guy. I already said the devil doesn't exist. In this topic, I can keep it going for a bunch of videos and videos and videos and videos, because there are other scriptures in the Bible, in the Tanakh, to talk, to dismantle that devilish guy, that he does not exist. So you people need to stop fearing something that does not exist, because the real devils, they are people. If you wanna know who the devil is, look to your right or look to your left. When you're outside, the real devils, the real demons are people. The people that's really doing bad things to people are people. And there's no Satan that jump in their head that makes them do it. They do it because they're evil. They love to do evil. When this guy just take his gun and start shooting people, it wasn't no devil that made him do it. This guy knew exactly what he wanted to do, because he's a devil himself. So you want to know who the devils are? Look around you. You have white devils, black devils, Mexican devils, Puerto Rican devils, Dominican devils, all these devils, Haitian devils, Jamaican devils. So look, people on earth, you have people that try to be good. Those would be just like from in the book of Genesis. You had Eve. They had beef with the serpent. The serpent, again, the serpent is not a snake. The snake is a regular animal. The serpent is a mystical snake. That's a person, because the serpent was talking. Snakes don't talk. So that's how you know the serpent, the person who wrote that story, he wasn't talking about a real serpent guy, a real serpent that was on the ground. That's a person. That's a wizard. That's Santa Claus. That's Jesus. That's a bad guy. That's a regular human being. But that guy had to have so much power. It's like the Scorpion King. So much power to go in. After the Most High created Adam 6,000 years ago and give him all type of wisdom, create him as a so-called little god on earth. Then you had this guy, a serpent guy, came and messed him up. So that guy was powerful. It wasn't even the Most High was telling Adam, you better stay away from this guy. This guy's not just any little guy. This guy, he's a super serpent. He's a super guy. He's a superman. He's an evil guy. And it's not just him. A bunch of them living. The earth been created a long time ago. So there's been people living way before Adam. You see, I wouldn't doubt somebody was to say Adam even had a father and mother 6,000 years ago. And the Most High just take this guy and did something to him genetically, and brought, that's why I say Adam was formed of the ground, of the dust of the ground. That means that's an earthly man, and then the Most High changed this earthly man to a god by breeding his thing in him, change him genetically, just like me. I'm a regular guy. The Most High can take me and turn me to a so-called, bring me to his lab and totally change me genetically, change my DNA, and then turn me to something else. Maybe not somebody that's fly, because I need wings to fly. There's no way with my body I'm gonna just fly. I mean, even the animals, they need wings, something that's gonna make them fly. So yes, again, devils, the devils, all of them, they are people. Like I was about to say, Genesis already warned us that that serpent guy, he's gonna have a seed, meaning people just like him, and then Eve gonna have a seed, meaning other people that's following the Most High's laws. And then the devil people, or the people they're like serpents walking around. And then they say those two will always be at war with each other. They will always be at war. So for example, if you're the seed of Eve, meaning somebody naturally, you were born with the right spirit to follow the Most High. When you hear the Most High's words, you understand it. You try to understand it, and you understand it, and you follow it. And then you have the serpent. No matter what you tell them, the serpent seed, no matter what you tell them, they can only understand serpent stuff, because the serpent's supposed to eat dust, dirt, meaning bad knowledge, low knowledge. Where do you find dirt? On the ground. The serpent doesn't walk. He doesn't have feet to walk. He just crawl on the floor. So people like the serpents, their knowledge is like low knowledge, dirt food. That's what they eat. That's what the serpent eat. That's what people who like descend of the serpent, No matter how much you're trying to show or open their eyes to something, they're not going to see it. But the minute you start telling them garbage stuff, then they're down. You know, the minute you say that, how about we start partying and BS and bull, whatever Biggie was saying, yeah, they're down with that. But when it's time to understand real wisdom, knowledge, understanding, they can't see that. Trying to tell them, look, the devil doesn't exist. But then they might know the devil gotta exist. They are the devil. That's why they think the devil exists. The devil does exist. That's them. They just don't know it's them. They think it's some other guy. No, it's you. It's you who's just the devil. You just don't know. You're the seed of the serpent. You just don't know that you were born. Everybody, you were either born good or bad. If you from your belly, from your mother's belly, for example, the guy drop a bunch of sperm, a bunch of things flying. And his sperm, if he's an evil man, he had a bunch of evil kids flying. And one of them just born. One of them just born. And even a good person, you drop that sperm, you get a woman pregnant, you know, you can have a bunch of evil kids too. A bunch of good kids there, a bunch of evil kids there. Whichever one gets to the finish line, that's the one that's going to be born. So you don't have a good person like Adam and Eve. You know, they want to have a kid. They want to have a kid, and then what came out? A devil came out. Cain came out. A murderer came out. And then they want to have another kid. Who came out? A good kid. So that means even good parents, you can have evil kids and you can have good kids. So it depends on which sperm gets to the finish line. So if an evil sperm came out, just like is it Jeremiah or Isaiah? I think it's Isaiah, Jeremiah. I put it in one of my videos. It says the wicked is estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. A wicked person is born wicked, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to change that child. That child gonna stay wicked. If that child gonna be a pedophile, he gonna be that. He's gonna be a serial killer. It's like the other day I was watching in this WhatsApp group I'm in, and then they show you this little white boy, and then a teacher was asking him, what do you want to do when you grow up? That little child was like, I want to be a killer. I want to kill people. I'm like, wow, he's a little kid. That child's born evil from day one. I bet you that little boy, one of those days, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, is going to be the same person on the news with a gun trying to kill people. You can see the evil child is born evil. Like a baby sometimes, we're lucky we don't see babies born with teeth start biting you. You know, in psychology, they'll call that, they say, well, you got 3 types of babies. You got the easygoing baby, you got the one in the middle, and you got the one that's like, no matter what, that baby's always screaming. That baby's always is up to no good. That baby trying to give that baby breast, that baby trying to bite the nipples. You know, some people are born evil, that's it. And some people are born good. The one who born good, eventually, if they don't get deceived, they wake up, they may go back and follow good stuff. Although every time they do bad, they're like, in their mind, they're constantly like, oh, you know you're not supposed to be doing this. You're like, damn, I'm not supposed to do it. Why am I doing it? Around other serpents. And then the serpent kids, you're trying to teach them good stuff, even though they follow, but deep down inside, they only thinking evil stuff. You just don't know inside their heart. Their heart is only thinking evil stuff. So I already said enough. That video is already an hour long already, so I'm just gonna stop it here. So that's it with the devil guy. So with this, I'm gonna say shalom.